The notification sound from my phone cut through the quiet morning like a blade. Another message from Jude. Probably another inside joke or meme that would make me laugh out loud. I glanced across the kitchen island, where my husband Rowan sat with his coffee, methodically reviewing spreadsheets on his laptop. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly when he heard the familiar ping. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. Morning, beautiful. Coffee date later, I have news that'll make you scream with laughter. Miss our talks already. I couldn't help but smile as I read Jude's text. He always knew exactly what to say to brighten my day. We'd been best friends for over 15 years, long before I even met Rowan. Our friendship was one of the most important relationships in my life, and I wasn't about to let anyone interfere with that. "Who's texting you this early?" Rowan asked without looking up from his screen, but I caught the edge in his voice. "Just Jude. He wants to grab coffee later." I kept my tone light and casual, hoping to avoid another uncomfortable conversation about boundaries. Rowan's fingers stopped moving across his keyboard. He slowly closed the laptop and looked directly at me for the first time that morning. His brown eyes, usually so warm and understanding, held something different now, something colder. "Evelyn, we need to talk about this. Really talk." I felt my defenses rising immediately. "Talk about what exactly? Having coffee with my best friend?" "It's not just coffee, and you know it." Rowan stood up and walked around the island to face me directly. The late-night texting, the constant inside jokes, the way he touches your shoulder in photos. This isn't normal friendship behavior. "Oh my God, not this again." I rolled my eyes dramatically. "Rowan, you're being ridiculous. Jude and I have been friends forever. This is just how we are." "How you are is inappropriate for a married woman." The words came out sharper than usual. Rowan rarely raised his voice, but I could see the frustration building behind his controlled exterior. "Inappropriate?" I laughed, but it came out hollow. "I'm not allowed to have male friends now? What century are we living in?" "Don't twist this into something it's not. I'm not asking you to give up all your male friends. I'm asking you to set boundaries with one specific person who clearly doesn't respect our marriage." I grabbed my phone and waved it in the air. "These are text messages, Rowan. Conversations between friends. You're reading way too much into everything." "Show me the messages then." The request caught me off guard. "Excuse me?" "If they're just innocent friendship conversations, show me. Let me see what you two talk about at midnight when you think I'm asleep." My grip tightened on the phone. "I'm not showing you my private conversations. That's a complete violation of trust." "A violation of trust?" Rowan's voice cracked slightly. "Evelyn, do you hear yourself right now? You're talking about trust while defending a man who sends you heart emojis and tells you how beautiful you look in every single photo you post." "He's supporting me. That's what friends do. Maybe if you showed half as much interest in my life as Jude does, we wouldn't be having this conversation." The words hit their mark. I watched Rowan's face change, saw the hurt flash across his features before he composed himself again. Part of me wanted to take it back immediately, but a larger part felt justified. He was being controlling and jealous, and I wasn't going to apologize for having a friendship that brought joy to my life. "I want you to block him." The statement hung in the air between us like a challenge. I stared at my husband, this man I'd been married to for 9 years, and felt something shift inside me. Not toward understanding or compromise, but toward defiance. "Absolutely not. Evelyn, I'm serious. Block his number, unfriend him on social media, end this inappropriate relationship." "It's not inappropriate, and I'm not blocking my best friend because you're insecure." I crossed my arms and lifted my chin. "If you can't handle me having male friends, that's your problem to work through, not mine." Rowan was quiet for a long moment, studying my face like he was seeing me for the first time. When he spoke again, his voice was eerily calm. "So that's your final answer? You're choosing him over your marriage?" I'm choosing my right to have friendships over your jealousy and control issues. There's a difference. Is there? He picked up his laptop and coffee mug. I'll be sleeping in the guest room until you figure out what matters more to you. Fine by me, I called after him as he walked away. Maybe you'll have time to think about why you're so threatened by a simple friendship. I heard the guest room door close with a soft click, and suddenly the kitchen felt too quiet. My phone buzzed again, with another message from Jude. Everything okay? You seem stressed in your last post. Want to talk about it? Instead of responding immediately, I opened my camera app and took a selfie. My hair was perfectly tousled, my makeup minimal but flattering. I looked confident, unbothered, free. I posted it to my Instagram story with the caption, "Real friends never leave, grateful for the people who actually support me." Within minutes, Jude had responded with fire emojis and, "Gorgeous as always, some people don't deserve you." I smiled, feeling validated. At least someone appreciated me. My phone rang and I saw my mother's name on the screen. "Hi, Mum." "Honey, I just saw your post. Everything all right?" Rowan's being controlling again. He wants me to block Jude because he's jealous of our friendship. "Oh, for heaven's sake." Sylvie Greer's voice carried the same dismissive tone she'd used my entire life when discussing men's emotions. "That's so old-fashioned. You're allowed to have friends, sweetie. Don't let him isolate you from people who care about you." That's exactly what I told him, but he's being impossible about it. Men get like this sometimes. They see their wives being happy and independent and they panic. Just ignore him. He'll get over it. After hanging up with my mother, I felt even more justified in my position. Rowan was being unreasonable, and I wasn't going to give in to his demands just to keep the peace. Our 8-year-old daughter Nora would be getting up soon for school, and I needed to focus on being a good mother, not catering to my husband's insecurities. As I started preparing Nora's breakfast, I heard movement from upstairs. Rowan appeared in the kitchen doorway, fully dressed for work despite it being barely 7 in the morning. He looked tired, older somehow. "I'm leaving early today. Can you handle the school drop-off?" "Of course." I kept my voice neutral, professional. "Nora has soccer practice after school. I'll pick her up." "Fine." He grabbed his keys from the counter. "Evelyn, I meant what I said. This situation with Jude needs to end." And I meant what I said too. I'm not blocking my friend. He nodded slowly, like he'd expected that answer. Then I guess we both know where we stand. After Rowan left, I sat alone in our kitchen, staring at my phone. Jude had sent 3 more messages, each one funnier than the last. He always knew how to make me laugh, how to make me feel special and understood. Rowan used to make me feel that way too, but somewhere along the line, our conversations had become about schedules and responsibilities and bills. When had we stopped really talking? When had he stopped seeing me as someone worth pursuing? I pushed those thoughts away and focused on getting ready for work. I had a full day of copy editing ahead of me, and I wasn't going to let Rowan's jealousy ruin my mood. Tonight, I'd probably grab that coffee with Jude and remind myself what it felt like to be around someone who actually enjoyed my company. As I headed upstairs to wake Nora, I noticed that the guest room door was still closed. A file folder sat on the hallway table outside the room, thick with papers I couldn't quite see. Rowan's handwriting was visible on the tab, but I couldn't make out what it said. Whatever. If he wanted to be dramatic and sleep in the guest room over an innocent friendship, that was his choice. I had better things to worry about than my husband's overactive imagination. The magazine office buzzed with its usual mid-morning energy as I settled into my desk with a large coffee and my laptop. I loved my job as a copy editor, the precision required, the satisfaction of polishing someone else's words until they shone. It was one of the few places where I felt truly competent and valued. "Morning, Evelyn," called Sarah from the desk across from mine. "How was your weekend?" "Good, thanks. Spent some time with friends, nothing too exciting." I deliberately kept it vague. The last thing I needed was office gossip about my personal life. My phone buzzed with a text from Jude. Coffee in 20. I'm at our usual spot, and I have the most ridiculous story about my weekend. You'll die laughing. I glanced around the office. My morning was relatively light, just a few articles to review before lunch. I could easily slip out for a quick coffee break. Actually, I might step out for a bit, I told Sarah. Need some fresh air. The cafe was only 3 blocks from my office, a cozy little place with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. Jude was already there when I arrived, sitting at our favorite corner table with 2 drinks waiting. He looked up as I approached, and his face broke into that familiar grin that always made me feel like the most interesting person in the room. There she is, he said, standing to give me a hug that lasted just a beat longer than necessary. You look amazing. That color is perfect on you. Thanks, I said, settling into the chair across from him. You mentioned a story. For the next hour, Jude regaled me with tales from his weekend, a disastrous family barbecue, a run-in with his eccentric neighbor, a movie so bad it was good. He had a way of telling stories that made everything sound like an adventure, and I found myself laughing harder than I had in weeks. Oh, before I forget, he said, pulling out his phone. We need a coffee date selfie. It's been too long since we documented our friendship properly. I hesitated for just a moment. After this morning's argument with Rowan, posting photos with Jude felt like poking a bear. But then I remembered my mother's words about not letting anyone isolate me from my friends. Absolutely, I said, leaning in close as Jude held up his phone. He took several shots, our heads tilted together, both of us laughing at something he whispered just before the camera clicked. In the photos, we looked happy and carefree, like people without a worry in the world. Perfect, Jude said, immediately posting one to his Instagram with the caption, "Coffee dates with this beauty never disappoint. Enjoy blessed choc friendship, jotra good vibes." I shared the same photo to my own account, adding, "Sometimes you need a friend who gets your sense of humor. Grateful for this guy." Within minutes, the likes and comments started rolling in. Most were positive. Heart emojis, cute friends, comments, people saying how happy we looked. But I noticed that several of our mutual friends, people who knew I was married, didn't interact with the post at all. My phone buzzed with a text from Rowan. Really? This is your response to our conversation this morning? I showed the message to Jude, who rolled his eyes dramatically. He's really going to police your social media now. That's not healthy, Eve. I know, right? It's just getting worse. This morning he actually asked me to block you. Jude's eyebrows shot up. Block me? What did you tell him? That he's being ridiculous and controlling, obviously. I'm not cutting off my friendships because he's insecure. Good for you. Jude reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You shouldn't have to shrink yourself to make someone else comfortable. Real love doesn't require you to give up the people who matter to you. His words resonated deeply. When had Rowan stopped making me feel supported and started making me feel constrained? I should probably get back to work, I said reluctantly, glancing at my watch. Of course. But hey, what are you doing Thursday night? There's this new wine bar downtown that's supposed to be amazing. We could check it out, make a night of it. That sounds perfect. I'll see if I can get a babysitter. Great, it's a date. He grinned and winked, and I felt that familiar flutter of excitement that came with having something fun to look forward to. Back at the office, I tried to focus on my work, but I kept thinking about my conversation with Jude. He was right. I shouldn't have to give up meaningful friendships just to appease Rowan's jealousy. If anything, Rowan should be grateful that I had such a supportive friend. Hey, Evelyn. Sarah appeared at my desk around 3 o'clock. Can I ask you something? Sure, what's up? I saw your post from earlier. That guy you were with, isn't he the same one from your other photos? The ones from last month at that art gallery? I felt a prickle of defensiveness. Yeah, that's Jude. He's my best friend. We've known each other for years. Oh, okay, I mean, you two look really close in all the photos. I didn't realize you had such a close male friend. Is that a problem? My voice came out sharper than I intended. No, of course not. I was just curious. You guys seem to have a lot of fun together. After Sarah walked away, I felt unsettled. Was I being paranoid, or was there judgment in her tone? I pulled up my Instagram and scrolled through my recent posts. There were quite a few photos of Jude and me. At the art gallery, at lunch last week, at a bookstore the week before that. In all of them, we were standing close together, laughing, looking completely comfortable with each other. To me, they looked like photos of two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company, but I tried to imagine seeing them through Rowan's eyes, or through the eyes of people who didn't know the innocent context of our friendship. My phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was Nora's school. Mrs. Miro, this is Janet from the main office. Nora seems to be feeling a bit under the weather. She's asking to go home. Of course, I'll be right there. I packed up my things and headed to the school, worry gnawing at me. Nora was rarely sick, and she almost never asked to come home early. When I arrived, I found her sitting in the nurse's office, looking small and pale. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, kneeling down to her level. "What's wrong? Are you feeling sick?" "My tummy hurts," she said quietly, "and my head feels funny." The nurse checked her temperature, normal, and said it might just be stress or tiredness. As we walked to the car, Nora was unusually quiet. "Mommy," she said as I buckled her seatbelt, "why were you and Daddy yelling this morning?" My heart sank. "We weren't yelling, honey. We were just having a discussion." It sounded like yelling, and Daddy looked really sad when he left for work. I studied my daughter's face in the rearview mirror. Her big brown eyes, so much like Rowan's, looked worried and confused. How much had she overheard? How much did she understand? Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, but it doesn't mean we don't love each other, and it definitely doesn't mean we don't love you. "Are you and Daddy getting divorced like Emma's parents?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "No, sweetheart, we're not getting divorced. We just need to work through some things." But even as I said the words, I wondered if they were true. The tension between Rowan and me had been building for months, and this morning's argument felt different somehow, more final. When we got home, I settled Nora on the couch with some crackers and ginger ale, then retreated to the kitchen to think. My phone buzzed with another text from Jude. "Hope your day got better after our coffee date. You deserve to smile every day." I was typing a response when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Rowan was home early, which was unusual for a Tuesday. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in his work clothes, but looking rumpled and tired. "How's Nora?" he asked. "Better. I think she just needed to come home and rest. She was asking about this morning, though, about why we were arguing." Rowan's jaw tightened. "What did you tell her?" "That sometimes adults have disagreements, but it doesn't affect how much we love her." "Good." He walked to the refrigerator and grabbed a water bottle. "Evelyn, I've been thinking about our conversation this morning. And I want to try couples counseling. I think we need help communicating about this situation." I felt a surge of irritation. "There's nothing to communicate about, Rowan. You want me to end a friendship, and I'm not going to do it. What's a counselor going to say about that? Maybe they'll help you understand why this friendship is damaging our marriage. Or maybe they'll help you understand why your jealousy is the real problem here." We stared at each other across the kitchen island, the same physical space where we'd argued that morning, but somehow the distance between us felt even greater now. "I made an appointment for Thursday evening," Rowan said quietly. "Dr. Martinez, she comes highly recommended." "I'm busy Thursday evening." "Doing what?" I hesitated, knowing my answer would only escalate things. "I'm going to that new wine bar downtown, with Jude." The silence that followed was deafening. Rowan set down his water bottle with deliberate care and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger exactly, but something colder, more resigned. "So let me get this straight. I ask you to attend marriage counseling, and you tell me you're busy going out with the man who's causing problems in our marriage. He's not causing problems. Your reaction to him is causing problems. Cancel the appointment with Jude. Come to counseling with me. No. Evelune, I'm asking you to choose, our marriage or him. And I'm telling you that's not a choice I should have to make. If you can't trust me enough to have a friendship, then maybe counseling won't help anyway. Rowan nodded slowly, like I'd confirmed something he'd already suspected. Okay, I understand now. He turned and walked toward the stairs, leaving me standing alone in the kitchen with my phone still in my hand and Jude's message still unanswered. From the living room, I could hear the soft sound of cartoons playing and Nora's occasional cough. I looked down at my phone and typed back to Jude. Day definitely got better after seeing you. Looking forward to Thursday night. But as I hit send, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had just shifted in my marriage. And for the first time since this whole situation began, I wondered if I was making the right choice. Thursday evening arrived with an unseasonable chill in the air. I spent extra time getting ready, choosing a black dress that was sophisticated but not too formal, perfect for a wine bar with a friend. As I applied my makeup, I could hear Rowan moving around in the guest room, getting ready for work the next day. We'd barely spoken since our argument on Tuesday. Nora knocked on my bedroom door as I was finishing my hair. Mummy, where are you going? Just out with a friend, sweetheart. Daddy's going to be here with you. Is it Uncle Jude? I paused, mascara wand halfway to my lashes. When had Nora started calling Jude Uncle? I didn't remember teaching her that. Yes, it's Jude. We're just going to get dinner and catch up. Can I come? Not tonight, honey. It's a grown-up dinner, but maybe this weekend we can all do something fun together. As I drove downtown to meet Jude, I tried to push away the guilt about missing the counseling appointment. Rowan was being unreasonable, asking me to choose between my marriage and my friendship. A good husband would trust his wife and support her relationships, not try to control them. The wine bar was exactly as Jude had described: intimate lighting, exposed brick walls, and an impressive selection of wines from around the world. Jude was already there when I arrived, looking handsome in a dark button-down shirt that brought out his eyes. There's my favorite person, he said, standing to give me a hug and a kiss on the cheek. You look absolutely stunning. Thank you. This place is perfect. We settled into a corner booth, and Jude ordered a bottle of wine that he insisted I had to try. It's from this tiny vineyard in Tuscany. The owner told me it would change my life. As the evening progressed, I found myself relaxing for the first time in days. Jude was an excellent conversationalist, asking thoughtful questions about my work, my dreams, my thoughts on everything from books to travel to philosophy. When had Rowan stopped asking me about my dreams? So tell me honestly, Jude said as we shared a dessert, how are things at home? You seemed pretty stressed the other day. I sighed, the wine making me more candid than usual. Not great. Rowan's being incredibly controlling about our friendship. He actually wanted me to go to couples counseling tonight instead of being here with you. Couples counseling? That seems extreme. Right? I mean, what's a therapist going to tell us that we don't already know? He's jealous, and I'm not going to give up my friendships to make him feel better. Jude reached across the table and covered my hand with his. You know what I think? I think he's intimidated because he sees how happy you are when you're with me. Some men can't handle it when their wives have fulfilling relationships outside the marriage. That's exactly what my mother said. She thinks he's being old-fashioned and possessive. Smart woman. You deserve to be with someone who celebrates your friendships, not someone who tries to limit them. As the evening wound down, Jude suggested we take a few photos to remember the night. This place is too beautiful not to document, he said, pulling out his phone. We took several selfies, some laughing, some serious, one where Jude's arm was around my shoulders and we were both looking directly into the camera with wine-flushed cheeks and bright smiles. In the photos, we looked like a couple celebrating an anniversary. These are perfect, Jude said, immediately posting one to his Instagram. Best dinner companion ever. Some people just get you, you know. I posted the same photo with the caption, "Sometimes you need an evening that reminds you who you are outside of all your responsibilities. Grateful for friends who see the real you." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Dozens of likes, comments about how happy I looked, how good Jude and I looked together. But I also noticed something else. Several of our mutual friends commented with just heart emojis or have fun messages that felt somehow hollow. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister Marta. "Eve, what are you doing? This doesn't look good." I showed the message to Jude, who shook his head in disgust. "Everyone's a critic. You're allowed to have dinner with a friend without the world weighing in on it." Exactly. I'm so tired of everyone acting like I'm doing something wrong. When I got home around 11, the house was dark except for the porch light Rowan had left on for me. I kicked off my heels and crept upstairs, trying not to wake anyone. As I passed the guest room, I could see light under the door and hear the soft sound of papers rustling. What was Rowan doing up so late with paperwork? The next morning, I woke to find that my Instagram post from the night before had exploded. Over 100 likes, dozens of comments, and several shares. But as I read through the responses, I began to notice a pattern. While many people were supportive, there were subtle undercurrents of judgment. "You two look so happy together," followed by a thinking face emoji. Where was Rowan? Working late again? Beautiful photo. Hope everyone's okay with the late night out. I was still scrolling through comments when Rowan appeared in the kitchen, fully dressed for work, despite it being barely 7 in the morning again. "How was your evening?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. "It was nice. We went to that wine bar I mentioned." I saw the photos. Something in his tone made me look up from my phone. And I think you should see something." He handed me his phone, open to a group text thread that included several of our mutual friends, people we'd known for years, couples we'd socialized with regularly. "Did you guys see Eve's post last night?" From Jennifer, a woman I'd considered one of my closest friends. "Yeah, that's getting pretty obvious." From her husband Mike, "I feel bad for Rowan. This has to be humiliating for him. Should someone say something to her?" I don't think she'd listen. She seems pretty committed to this path. I stared at the messages, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. These were people who'd been to our house for dinner, who'd celebrated holidays with us, who'd watched Nora grow up. "They don't understand our friendship," I said, handing the phone back to Rowan. "They're making assumptions." "Are they?" Rowan's voice was quiet, tired. "Evelyn, look at those photos objectively. Look at the captions, the timing, the way you two are positioned. What would you think if you saw another married woman posting pictures like that?" "I'd think she was having dinner with a friend." "Would you really?" I wanted to argue, but something in his expression stopped me. He didn't look angry anymore, just deeply sad. "I got a call yesterday," Rowan continued, "from my mother. Apparently, several people have reached out to her, concerned about our marriage. She wanted to know if we were separated." "What did you tell her?" "I told her I didn't know anymore." The words hung between us like a death sentence. I felt a surge of anger at our so-called friends for gossiping about us, at Rowan's mother for interfering, at everyone who was determined to make something innocent into something sordid. "This is ridiculous," I said, standing up abruptly. "I'm not going to be shamed for having a friendship just because a bunch of people have dirty minds." "It's not about dirty minds, Evelyn. It's about respect. For our marriage, for our family, for the commitments we made to each other." "I haven't broken any commitments. Haven't you?" Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was HR from my office. "Evelyn? Hi, it's Patricia. I was wondering if you could come in a little early today. There's something we need to discuss." My stomach dropped. "Is everything okay?" "We'll talk when you get here." After I hung up, Rowan was watching me with that same unreadable expression. "Everything all right?" "I'm sure it's nothing. Just work stuff. But as I got ready for the office, I couldn't shake the feeling that my carefully constructed world was starting to crumble around me. And for the first time since this whole situation began, I wondered if I'd misjudged how my actions were being perceived by everyone around me. The drive to work felt longer than usual, and when I arrived at the office, Patricia was waiting for me with a folder in her hands and a serious expression on her face. "Let's talk in my office," she said. As I followed her down the hallway, I caught Sarah's eye. She looked away quickly, but not before I saw something that looked like pity in her expression. Whatever was about to happen, I had the sinking feeling that my evening of wine and friendship was about to cost me more than I'd ever imagined. Patricia's office felt smaller than usual as she gestured for me to sit across from her desk. The folder in her hands looked ominous, and I found myself gripping the arms of the chair to keep my hands from shaking. "Evelyn, I want to start by saying that your work performance has always been exemplary. This conversation isn't about your professional abilities." "Okay," I said slowly, though nothing about this felt okay. "However, we've received some concerns about your social media presence and how it might be reflecting on the company." My heart sank. What kind of concerns? Patricia opened the folder and pulled out several printed screenshots of my Instagram posts, all the recent photos with Jude, including the ones from last night at the wine bar. "These posts have been brought to my attention by several colleagues. The concern is that your online presence might be creating an unprofessional image, particularly given that your relationship status is listed as married on your profile." I felt heat rising in my cheeks. "Those are personal posts on my personal account. I don't mention the company anywhere." "That's true, but several of your co-workers follow you, and some of our clients do as well. In today's digital age, there isn't really a separation between personal and professional online presence. So I'm being disciplined for having dinner with a friend." "You're not being disciplined. This is a conversation about professional boundaries and company image. I'm asking you to be more mindful about what you share publicly." After the meeting, I sat in my car in the parking lot, staring at my phone. The screenshots Patricia had shown me were all recent posts with Jude, but seeing them printed out and presented as evidence made them look different somehow. More intimate, more questionable. I called Jude, needing to hear a friendly voice. "Hey, beautiful, how's your morning?" "Terrible. I just got called into HR because of our dinner photos." "You're kidding, that's insane." "I know, right? I feel like I'm living in some kind of puritanical nightmare where women aren't allowed to have male friends. This is all Rowan's fault, you know. He's probably been talking to people, poisoning them against you." The thought hadn't occurred to me, but it made sense. "You think so?" "Think about it. Suddenly, everyone's concerned about your friendship with me. That doesn't happen in a vacuum. Someone's been planting seeds." By the time I got home that evening, I was furious. The injustice of the situation felt overwhelming. I was being punished at work, gossiped about by friends, and made to feel guilty for maintaining a meaningful friendship. And it all traced back to Rowan's jealousy and inability to trust me. I found him in the kitchen, helping Nora with her homework at the island, where we'd had our first argument about Jude just days earlier. "Mummy," Nora jumped up to hug me. "Daddy's helping me with my math. Want to see?" "Of course, sweetheart." I forced a smile and looked over her worksheet, trying to focus on her proud explanations of long division, while my mind raced with anger. "Why don't you go wash up for dinner?" Rowan suggested to Nora. "We'll finish this after we eat." Once Nora was upstairs, I turned to face my husband. "I got called into HR today." Rowan's expression didn't change. "About what?" "About my social media posts. Apparently, my friendship with Jude is creating an unprofessional image for the company." "I see." "That's all you have to say? I see?" "What would you like me to say, Evelune?" "Maybe that you're sorry this is happening. Maybe that you'll help me figure out how to handle it. Maybe that you support your wife when she's being unfairly targeted." Rowan was quiet for a moment, then said, "Were you unfairly targeted, or were there legitimate concerns about your behavior? The question felt like a slap. I can't believe you just said that. I can't believe you're surprised by this. You've been posting intimate photos with another man for weeks. What did you think was going to happen? They're not intimate, we're friends. Friends don't look at each other the way you two do in those photos. Friends don't post captions about being seen for who they really are, by someone other than their spouse. So now I can't even express gratitude for friendship. Not when that friendship is clearly crossing boundaries that make everyone around you uncomfortable. I felt something snap inside me. Everyone around me, or just you? Everyone, Evelyn. Your co-workers, our friends, your own sister. The only people who seem to think this is appropriate are you, Jude, and your mother. Don't bring my mother into this. Why not? She's been encouraging this from the beginning, hasn't she? Telling you to ignore your husband's concerns, to prioritize your independence over your marriage. He was right, but that only made me angrier. At least someone supports me. I used to support you. I used to be the person you came to when you needed encouragement or validation, or just someone to listen. When did that change? The question caught me off guard, because I didn't have a good answer. When had I stopped seeing Rowan as my primary source of emotional support? When had I started looking for validation elsewhere? Maybe it changed when you stopped seeing me as someone worth pursuing, I said, deflecting. When you stopped making me feel special. And Jude makes you feel special? Yes, he does. He sees me as more than just a wife and mother. He's interested in my thoughts, my dreams, my personality. And I'm not. When's the last time you asked me about my dreams, Rowan? When's the last time you complimented me, or made me feel beautiful, or told me I was interesting? Rowan stared at me for a long moment. When's the last time you gave me the chance? You're so busy texting Jude and planning outings with Jude and posting photos with Jude that there's no space left for me in your life. That's not true, isn't it? You chose dinner with him over marriage counseling. You chose defending him over listening to your husband's concerns. You've chosen him over me at every single opportunity. I chose friendship over control. I chose my right to have relationships over your jealousy. And how's that working out for you? You're in trouble at work, our friends are talking, our daughter is asking why we're fighting all the time, and your marriage is falling apart. Was it worth it? Before I could answer, Nora appeared in the doorway. Are you guys fighting again? We both turned to look at our daughter, and I felt a stab of guilt at the worry in her young face. How many times had she overheard us arguing? How much of this adult drama was affecting her? We're just having a discussion, honey, I said, my voice softer. It sounds like fighting. Emma's parents used to have discussions like this before they got divorced. The word divorced hung in the air like a bomb that had just gone off. I saw Rowan's face go pale, saw him reach for Nora's hand. Come here, sweetheart, he said gently. Mommy and Daddy are working through some problems, but that doesn't mean we don't love you. But do you still love each other? The question was so direct, so innocent, so devastating, that neither of us answered immediately. In that silence, I think we both realized how far we'd drifted from the couple who'd once been so happy together. Of course we do, I said finally, but the words felt hollow. That night, after Nora was asleep, I found myself sitting on our back deck with my phone, scrolling through old photos of Rowan and me. Pictures from our wedding, from vacations, from quiet moments at home. In all of them, we looked happy, connected, like people who genuinely enjoyed being together. When had that changed? When had we become strangers living in the same house? My phone buzzed with a text from Jude. Hope your day got better. You deserve so much more than the drama you're dealing with. Some people just don't appreciate what they have. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Thanks for always knowing what to say. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'll never have to find out. I'm not going anywhere. As I read his response, I felt that familiar warmth of being understood and valued. But for the first time, I also felt something else. a tiny flicker of doubt about whether this friendship was worth the cost it was extracting from every other area of my life. I pushed the doubt away and went inside to bed, but I couldn't shake the image of Nora's worried face or the sound of her asking if we still loved each other. Some questions I was beginning to realize were harder to answer than they should be. The next few weeks passed in a strange, cold silence. Rowan and I moved around each other like polite strangers sharing a house, coordinating schedules for Nora, discussing practical matters, but avoiding any real conversation about the growing chasm between us. He continued sleeping in the guest room, and I pretended it didn't bother me. Work became increasingly uncomfortable. After my meeting with Patricia, several colleagues seemed to be treating me differently. Sarah no longer asked about my weekend plans, and the usual friendly chatter around my desk had diminished to professional pleasantries. I caught people looking at me sometimes, then quickly looking away when I met their eyes. The only bright spot in my days remained my friendship with Jude. We'd scaled back our public social media posts after the HR incident, but we still texted constantly and met for coffee or lunch several times a week. If anything, the external pressure had made our friendship feel more precious, more necessary. "You know what I think," Jude said over lunch at a quiet restaurant across town, away from my office and the usual places where we might run into people we knew. "I think you need to seriously consider whether this marriage is making you happy." I nearly choked on my salad. "What do you mean?" "I mean, look at your life objectively. You're walking on eggshells at home, being judged by so-called friends, getting in trouble at work, all because you refuse to give up a friendship that brings you joy. Is that really how you want to live?" "It's not that simple. We have Nora to think about." Nora would be better off with a happy mother than with parents who can barely stand to be in the same room together. The tension in our house wasn't subtle anymore. Nora felt it. I felt it. Even Rowan felt it, even when he pretended he didn't. That night, his car wasn't in the driveway. Nora said he had a meeting downtown. Lately, his calendar was full of those, vague labels, no details, like he was living a separate life in plain sight. At bedtime, Nora looked up at me and asked the question I'd been dodging in my own head. "Mommy, are you and Daddy getting divorced?" I tried to soften it to make it sound temporary. She didn't buy it. "You don't seem happy anymore," she said quietly. "Either of you." Then she asked the one thing that made my throat close. "Is it because of Uncle Jude?" Because she'd noticed the sadness on Rowan's face whenever Jude's name came up. Because she'd noticed my defensiveness. Because kids hear the things we think we hide. Later, Jude texted, offering to come over with wine. For once, I didn't take the easy comfort. I said no, and stared at my phone like it was a loaded weapon. Rowan came home around 10. I asked about the meeting. He said, "Business consulting," like that explained anything. Then he stopped in the doorway and said, almost evenly, "Nora asked me today if we're getting divorced." "She asked me too," I admitted. "What did you tell her?" "That we're working through things." He held my eyes. "Are we?" I didn't have a clean answer. "I don't know." He nodded once, like that was the first honest thing he'd heard in weeks. The next morning, he was gone before I woke up. A note waited on the counter. "I'll pick Nora up from soccer. We need to talk tonight. Important." The wording made my stomach twist. Not a text. A note. Like he wanted it to feel official. At lunch, I went home to calm down, but the mailbox did the opposite. It was stuffed with thick envelopes from law offices I didn't recognize. Rowan's name printed on the front. I stood in the driveway holding a stack of legal mail, and for the first time, I felt real fear. Not of losing a marriage in theory, but of watching my life actually split in half. And I couldn't stop wondering if I'd pushed this too far to ever walk it back,